Hi everybody, I'm Christian. This is Lazy Devs. It's the name of my new channel. That's so fun. Alright, so this is our Pico-8 tutorial, our first Pico-8 tutorial, and I swear the next one is going to be shorter. But wow, this turned into quite an adventure. We are still doing Breakout. And we are getting somewhere. I mean, look at how awesome this game looks. Now we have like the bricks animating in, and we even have the bricks now being like hit and the particles going all over the place. Something that I wanted to do though, the particles are a little bit tiny, and we added more particles, but that just created like this shower of particles. We want the particles to feel more substantial, but we don't want to do it by just increasing the number of particles. We don't want just the splintered, like tiny little splinters. We want maybe the thing to be destroyed, but in a more chunky fashion. So we want to add chunks to those particles. And that means we have to create a new type of particle. But first, something I want to do is, so the way we're going to do this is we're going to create sprites and we're going to animate those sprites. So let me draw a bunch of particles. And, you know, I am a designer, so I should be know how to do this. But I'm just drawing a bunch of shapes, just things that look maybe like part of the brick. And we're not going to spawn a lot of these, right? We're not going to be spawning a lot of these particles because they are. I want them to be very like close to the center of the sprite, because we're going to also turn them. This is a bit too symmetrical, something like this maybe. Yeah, that's good. And then maybe another small one. Yeah, so let's take these four. These are going to be our chunks. And for every brick we hit, I want to maybe spawn one, maybe two of those chunks additionally. So it's like kind of seems like the particles are really splitting apart into pieces. So these are 16, 17, 18, and 19. Good. The way we do particles as with sprites is exactly the same way we do any other particles. So far, I'm gonna actually do like a small lookup table so we know what's up. Big particle draw, there we go. So far we're just setting a single pixel, but you don't have to just set a pixel. The particle can be whatever you want. So it could be also, for example, it could be a sprite. It could be a sprite. So else if type equals 3, then we're gonna just draw a sprite. How here's a bit of a problem. So you already noticed that when we're adding the particles, like the more how do you say it? The more things we add to the particle, the more arguments do we have to add on top to the actual function call. So we get like this very, very long function call. So I'm not exactly sure if we're going to keep this, and maybe we're going to create a new add particle function that will deal just with sprite particles. Because for other particles that are not sprite particles, we don't have to deal with the sprites, so we should maybe add the sprites. I don't know. What do you guys think? Or we could just say like, okay, in the case where a particle is a sprite particle, then we're gonna take the color value and we're gonna use that as the, yeah, that might be actually, that makes sense. Yeah. So for particles which are sprite particles, we're going to use the color value as the number of the sprite that is going to be using. So yeah, that will actually be pretty neat. So that way we can reuse already existing structure, and that will also allow us, for example, to make the sprite change over time in a very natural fashion. That's nice. Good. How are we going to do this? So when we shatter the brick, which is here, you know what? I'm just gonna add a single particle, just like that. No funny business, just adding a single particle here. Type number 3, this is going to be our new particle. And the sprite is going to be this sprite, 17, just to see how it works. 17. So this is this is a test particle, so to speak. All right, so here's where we're moving bricks. This is where we're drawing this particle. Okay, so if this is a particle that is supposed to be a sprite, we are going to there we go, SPR. First the number of the sprite, and then for that we're going to use the color, P color, comma the X position and the Y position. It's really not that difficult. And the rest we don't need. Might be enough. I love it. Runtime error. Attempt to perform arithmetic on field dx and nil value. Oh. Right, I see the problem. Yeah, we're creating dx's here, and we're actually not having them. Yeah, so let's just, it's not the neatest way to do this, but you know, we created a particle that didn't have a speed, and Pico-8 flipped out. It's like, what? This particle's not moving. I don't know what you're talking about, man. This seems to be some kind of funny business. Let's just crash, just in case. And there you see. There's our particle flying away. One thing that I didn't realize is not affected by gravity, and it should. Now this is the moment where I'm thinking maybe it shouldn't be the whatever. Not gonna mess around with this for now. We're not gonna have that many particles, I think. Oops. Oh. Or I love it. Look how awesome this looks. This is good. So we now have a really nice chunky, maybe a bit too chunky. Maybe we're gonna actually scale it down after a while. But for now, that's good. That's actually working really nice. Okay, so what do we want to do now? Let's make the spawning really legit. Right now, the spawning is not legit, so let's make it legit. So how are we going to do this? This is going to be in the shatter brick function. We're gonna do it in a loop. So for every local chunks. So we're gonna calculate with a random number generator how many chunks this particle will have. How many chunky particles this brick will have. We're gonna use a floor integer function. It's sometimes maybe we're gonna have 2 particles. This whatever. Let's make 2. So it's 1 or so. It's either 1 or yeah. It's either 1 or 0. Then we're gonna iterate. We're gonna put it in a loop. We're gonna iterate from 0 to the number of chunks we want to be having. Again, it could be 0. Oh, then it always says 1, right? Okay, so sometimes it's okay, like this. So if chunks is greater than 0. So if there is a chunk, then end. again, we're going to tweak the numbers later on. Maybe when we make the chunks smaller, maybe we realize that we actually want to have more. Yeah, and then this is the part where we're going to actually do the randomization and everything. One thing I want to do is also to randomize the sprite. Local SPR equals so it's 16 till 19. So 16 plus floor RND 4 0 1. Yes. Yeah, it should be it. Just in case, just to make sure, we're going to make a red particle, and if the red particle doesn't show up, then it's the wrong one. Okay. All right, and then this thing gets plugged into in here. One more thing, I don't want them to be as extreme, going sideways as extreme, so maybe just 1.5. Good. Let's see how this works. I'm getting really good at this game. Oh, there's a red chunk, so we don't need, so we randomize correctly. Ah, look at this. That's good, good stuff. So one more thing that is also happening is these chunks are not rotating. So we want them to rotate, and that's kind of like, how are we going to rotate them? How are we going to rotate them? How? So we need to add we have a rotation. Ah. Oh no. We need a rot timer. And that's something that we're gonna actually not gonna control with any parameters. That's something like every particle of type 3 will do this automatically. So if type equals 3, if type is 3, then we want to rotate this guy. And then we're gonna get this rot timer. We're gonna increase this by 1. Rot timer plus equals 1. And if the rot timer reaches a certain threshold, if rot timer equals or is greater than, let's say it rotates every half a second. Yeah, then then this rot gets changed. Rot plus equals 1. If rot, so 0, 1 to 3, when it reaches 4. So if p rot is greater or equals 4, then we're going to reset it to 0. And basically this rot value, this rotation, is only something that like 0 is kind of like normal, 1 is like kind of like rotated, you know, sideways. It's kind of like, how do you call it? Can we even rotate things? Is that even possible? We can flip things, right? Is that enough? Should be enough. Okay, never mind. Okay, let's try to make this work. So the way we rotate things is, again, you have to look up in this sprite sheet, is you have nxy, if in this SPR function, nxy, which is, you know, number of the sprite, the x position, the y position, then there's a width and height, which in our case is going to be both 1, 1. And then there's a flip x and flip y. So fx and fy. And this could be true or false. When it's true, it flips it in the x direction and in the y direction. And when it's false, it stays like the original. So we do like an if statement now. So if p dot rot equals 1, then else if. And then we just go through all of the things that prot can be. Actually, we're gonna go because I'm worried that maybe rotation is not one of the things that we think it is, and then it might be looking goofy. So just in case, I'm going to do like an else at the end. And the else will cover all other cases, and this is always a good practice to avoid like weird, funky looking stuff. So local I'm going to create the local variables, local fx, fy. And normal situation, in any situation, should be fx equals false. And fy equals false. When it's rotated 100 degrees, this is here, then I guess both should be flipped, so both should be true. I mean, whatever, it's not a not a real science. You're not my real mom. We're just gonna flip this sprite around a little bit to make it appear as if it's rotating. Oh, yeah, there's an underscore missing somewhere. Where's the big particle updater? Rotate there. There's an underscore missing here. See? I think it's not rotating fast enough, so let's make it 5 or so. It's going so much sideways. The chunks are flying away sideways, so I cannot tell if they're rotating. Yeah, it was rotating. So it's not really rotation because we're flipping, so we're not really turning that particle, and that might look a bit odd. Yeah, there it is. So actually I want to increase the amount of chunky particles. I think we don't have enough chunky particles. I think we need at least one every time. And then maybe up to 3. Yeah. So let's make like 10. Yeah, this is chunky town now. Okay, so I think they're a bit too big. So let me make them a bit smaller here. And I know this is kind of silly because we could make them procedurally as well, but I'm going to add some additional as well. They're not supposed to be too different from each other, because if there are, we will notice immediately. Just a bunch of, this is too similar to another one. I'm just going to make a lot of particles. Okay, this is a bigger one. Okay, so this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. This is going to be the red one. 14 different particles. Look how much space we were wasting for them. Yeah. Okay, there's the red one, so we are spawning them correctly. Now this looks chunky. And actually I don't like how these staying behind, so I will actually make them yeah, this is better. I'm gonna remove the red one, and one of the particles, this one looks too similar to another one, and one of them I'm gonna make actually really big. Sometimes I want a really big particle. This is good. Oh, look how the beautiful particles. Let me give more lives. I need more lives. This was a very chunky particle. Holy crap. This is good. Quality particles. So what if I add a little bit of screen shake? Because right now they're bursting really crazy, and so I would maybe like to add a little bit of screen shake to this. How do I do this again? Where do I have my screen shake? There, shake. Just a little bit. Yeah, that's good. Just a little bit of shake. Maybe even less, 0.5. So when it hits one brick, it's not. But if it hits 2 bricks, the shaking compounds, and so 1 brick is not a shake, but 2 bricks is going to be a shake. What about 7? So it gets a little bit of a shake. I just want to have a little bit of a screen move on. Yeah, that's good. This is good. See, now we're getting into a situation where we're getting like some really nice graphics here. And it's also, I think, very important that we have 2 types of particles. That's something that I realized when I was a kid, when I was drawing, like, you know, as a kid you draw. What do you draw as a kid? You draw spaceships and asteroids and stuff like that. And when I was drawing them, I realized, oh, it looks really nice if you have a lot of little particles when an asteroid explodes, or like if you're drawing an asteroid belt. You have a lot of tiny little particles, tiny little chunks, and a few big ones. And that's kind of like an overall, like a general rule of aesthetics in general. You have a lot of tiny little details and a few defining shapes. And so, for example, that's when you design a character, that's also how you progress. You have a big shape of the character, or overall shape that is very distinct and very recognizable. But then as you go into refining the character, you add a lot of details. And of course, there's a lot of shapes that consist of the details, but they're small, so they don't detract off from the overall shape. And that's basically kind of like what we did here. We have a few chunky pixels, particles, which are very prominent, and a lot of tiny little single pixel particles, which added like the detail to the entire explosion. That's why we have like this this beautiful explosion going on. I like it. I love it. It's starting to get really nice. The screen shake also added a lot to this. Now you're really feeling like you're breaking through this yeah, like you're breaking through this wall. Good, I love it. Let us do a plan for the next episode, because there's not too much left. I think we're almost there. We're almost there. So we have the brick particles, I think, pretty well. So there's some collision particles which I want to do. Oh, there's pickup particles I want to do, and there's explosions that we want to do. So there's still some more particles coming up. And also I want to get me a glass of tea. So so see you in the next episode. I hope you'll join us next time around. As always, post your questions in the comments section, and remember, the code at the end of each episode is also posted down in the doobly-doo, so you can check it out if you're not following along. Seems like we're getting there. There's just a couple of little details we need to finish up, and then I think we have the juiciness part, the particle part, pretty much wrapped up. See you on the next episode. Bye bye.